the father of modernist architecture. Franco-Swiss master Le Corbusier laid the foundations for a new epoch.
C'était en quelque sorte le Léonard de Vinci du XXe siècle.
Inspiring some of the world's most renowned architects, from Frank Gehry, Tadao Ando and Oscar Niemeyer.
Il va rester pour l'histoire de l'architecture du XXe siècle un des grands théoriciens de l'architecture moderne.
But disdain from others, who saw his vision for urban living as soulless.
Oui, je trouve que c'est un des plus mauvais architectes qui n'a jamais existé au monde.
On the 60th anniversary of his death, what made Le Corbusier one of the most admired and detested architects of the 20th century? In José, western France, we find a building unlike any of its neighbours.
I've been living at the Maison Radieuse since February 1956, and this is the fourth apartment that I've lived in. My very first childhood memory was the light, thanks to the generous picture windows so dear to Le Corbusier.
The Maison Radieuse is the second of the 5 social housing projects Le Corbusier would design over the course of his career, consisting of 294 apartments, originally designed to house 1,500 residents.
I came to the Maison Radieuse, like most of the first residents, completely by chance. My father worked for the postal service. The post office reserved 30 apartments. For us, living here was such a step forward compared to living in the city centre. Family, friends, classmates really didn't understand how we could live in this building. They thought we were strange people.
The Maison Radieuse to this day has 55% social housing, with a communal rooftop, a nursery, a weekly market, and even a thrift shop for residents, with the corridors instead being called streets.
We are a vertical village with all its components, for example, all generations, all social classes, and nowadays a multicultural society. There was always help if there was a problem, if someone needed looking after. We're the ones living closest to what Le Corbusier had envisioned for his housing units.
Born Charles-Édouard Jeanneret in 1887, Le Corbusier grew up in the watchmaking city of Chaux-de-Fonds in Switzerland. But he would one day be adopted by France as one of its most important cultural figures.
Le Corbusier, le magicien de l'architecture, visionnaire et humaniste, mais aussi constructeur passionné.
Jacques Sbriglio is an architect and expert on Le Corbusier.
I was 18 and I walked into a bookshop. I saw a photo of the convent of La Tourette, and I completely fell in love with this strange project. That's truly what made me decide to go into architecture.
His award-winning Euro-Méditerranée project in Marseille was inspired by the Franco-Swiss master's modernist aesthetic.
The architect works first and foremost for the common good before even aesthetics or design. This triptych of city, housing and architecture is inseparable. Le Corbusier's entire body of work is especially exemplary in the landscape of 20th century architecture.
La Villa Savoie, outside of Paris, is one of Le Corbusier's most iconic works, but it almost didn't make it past the blueprint. He had hoped to become an artist. His university professor had other ideas.
The legend says that a teacher once told the future Le Corbusier, "Painting is not for you, you'll be an architect." And Le Corbusier said, "But that's not at all what I wanted to do. I completely disagree." But he obeyed, and we know what came of that.
His ambition would take him from the Swiss countryside to the French capital of Paris.
He decided to move to Paris because he felt that in Paris there was a strong academic tradition, especially regarding Haussmannian architecture. What he wanted was to shake all that up, because Paris was the center of the artistic avant-garde.
He was completely opposed to what he called corridor streets and slums. Neighborhoods like the Marais were to him the worst horrors, because he had a hygienist mindset. So there had to be wide roads, open air, and sunlight entering buildings.
His dream was to destroy and rebuild large parts of Paris, as he outlined in his Plan Voisin design project.
Vous pouvez bâtir en hauteur et obtenir, par exemple tel qu'il est prévu ici, une cité d'affaires formée de 4 grands édifices.
Monsieur Corbusier, avec ce système, est-ce que vous n'allez pas justement complètement détruire le Paris historique?
Ah non, surtout pas ça. Moi j'aime Paris.
Le Corbusier's plan did not break ground, but a collaboration of Cubist artist Amédée aux Enfants would lead them to create the avant-garde magazine L'Esprit Nouveau. He used Le Corbusier as a pseudonym for the articles he contributed. It would become the blueprint for his revolutionary 1923 book, Towards an Architecture.
He drew parallels between the beauty of the machines of his time and the beauty of the Parthenon, which was extremely shocking. It was an ode to industry, modernity, and engineering.
The book lays out Le Corbusier's design principles, the 5 points of modern architecture.
There are the pilotis or pillars clearly visible at the Villa Savoie, the roof terrace, the free plan, the free facade, and the final element clearly visible at Villa Savoie is the long horizontal windows.
The end of World War II and the destruction of cities around Europe was a chance for Le Corbusier to put these theories into practice, such as in the French port city of Marseille.
An architect is born to build, and if humans destroy, thank goodness architects are there to rebuild. Not only buildings, but also the morale of populations deprived of their homes. He was one of the architects commissioned to work on reconstruction sites.
Le Corbusier à Marseille, c'est peut-être la première pierre de la cité de l'avenir.
The construction of the Cité Radieuse, it was as if a UFO had landed on the street. That's why it was nicknamed La Maison du Fada, or the Madhouse. In this building, Le Corbusier worked for the common good through the idea of social housing.
The Unité d'Habitation, or Cité Radieuse, is the only UNESCO heritage site in Marseille, attracting around 70,000 visitors a year.
Bonjour à tous, je suis ravie de vous accueillir ici à la Cité Radieuse. Le bâtiment est construit sur pilotis. Pilotis, loggia, toit terrasse, murs libres, plans libres. Vous avez les 5 piliers constructeurs de l'œuvre de Le Corbusier.
Unlike his other housing projects, the Cité Radieuse has a restaurant, a hotel, to name but a few.
Un espace de solarium, un gymnase, un théâtre, le repos, la détente, le bain de soleil, le pastis, écrit-il.
In 2024, Chanel used a rooftop for its cruise collection show. It became a social media hit, boosting the number of tourists coming to Marseille and the Cité Radieuse.
I studied art history. I learned about Le Corbusier, and it was a wish for me for a long time to come here, and now today is the day.
You can visit it in a fairly subtle way without distorting the place, and that let you take part in Le Corbusier's vision for this social housing project, and that's great.
Le Corbusier received the Legion of Honor for the Cité Radieuse. It marked a turning point in his career. He went from being an outsider to France's most prominent architect. His fame would take him to Brazil, inspiring renowned architects Oscar Niemeyer and Lucio Costa in the designing of a new Brasilia. And his largest and most ambitious project, the city of Chandigarh in India. But his legacy will be called into question in 2015, on the 50th anniversary of his death. As a monumental retrospective of his work was set to open at the Pompidou Centre, 3 books were published showcasing Le Corbusier's darker side.
He was a militant fascist. It was as simple as that. That's why I wrote this book, because I could not keep it to myself.
He was a man who was active for 20 years in groups whose ideology was very clear. It was hidden. Documents were destroyed.
The authors claim that Le Corbusier moved in fascist circles, with links to France's World War II collaborationist Vichy regime. They also claim that personal letters to his mother included anti-Semitic comments and sketches. Le Corbusier's political views are still up for debate, a decade on.
Political convictions? Deep down, Le Corbusier didn't have any. It's kind of a thing that was blown out of proportion from quotes taken out of context, and of course from his time in Vichy. He was friends with fascist thinkers, but also with communists.
Charles Le Corbusier est mort, ce matin, noyé dans la Méditerranée alors qu'il s'y baignait comme chaque été.
Le Corbusier died in 1965. The world of architecture had changed. In the legacy of Le Corbusier, maybe what we should hope for is that architecture rediscovers the question of the city, the question of housing, and of course, the question of architecture as a public good.
With work scattered across 12 countries, Le Corbusier, the reluctant architect, came to leave an indelible and divisive mark on the world.